The systematic devastation of Black farmers. Let it be known, that's what we're talking about this morning. Black farmers lost 90% of their farmland between 1910 and 1997, largely due to decades of loan denials at the USDA. Since 1965, multiple federal agencies, most notably the USDA itself, have issued reports citing, as the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights put it back in 1965, unmistakable evidence that racial discrimination within the agricultural department has served to accelerate the displacement and impoverishment of the Black farmer. We will discuss that this morning. But first, of course, the news headlines. We begin on a sad note. Edgar Brookins, the Afro newspaper in Washington and Baltimore, and all of the NMPA mourns the death of Edgar Brookins. In a column in this week's Afro, digital editor Misha Green wrote, Army officer, Omega man, college professor, Sunday school teacher, church leader, dedicated Afro employee, volunteer extraordinaire, lupus advocate, Mr. DC, and most proudly dad and granddad were just some of the many titles Edgar Brookins answered to in his 74 years on earth. On December 1st, 2021, longtime Washington Afro general and circulation manager Edgar Brooks died at Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, after a long, arduous battle with prostate cancer. Even in the biggest fight of his life, Brookins remained a dedicated servant in so many walks of life, from the Association of the Study African American Life and History to church, to raising awareness on prostate cancer and lupus, to showing up at every Afro meeting and circulation day. Our thoughts are with Dr. Tony Draper, the entire staff at the Afro, and the family of Edgar Brookins. Also this morning, we have a bit of breaking news. Simone Sanders, the Vice President Kamala Harris's chief spokesperson, is leaving the White House. While it's not clear what prompted the decision, officials close to the vice president said she expected Sanders' departure and called her an extraordinary talent. We will continue to update this breaking story in the days to come, but Simone Sanders is now exiting the Biden-Harris administration. Also in the news this morning, the right to an abortion in the United States appears to be on shaky ground at best, as a divided Supreme Court heard arguments on Wednesday on the fate of Roe versus Wade, the court's 1973 decision that legalized abortion in the United States. At issue in Wednesday's case, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. That was a Mississippi law that bans abortion after 15 weeks. Until now, all the court's abortion decisions have upheld Roe's central framework that women have a constitutional right to an abortion in the first 2 trimesters of pregnancy, when a fetus is unable to survive outside the womb, roughly between 22 and 24 weeks. But Mississippi asked the Supreme Court to reverse all of its prior abortion decisions and to return the abortion question to the states. The court's 3 newest justices, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, appeared to signal they are ready to side with Mississippi. But it wasn't immediately clear if all of them would strike down Roe, as the state of Mississippi had asked. Summarizing Mississippi's argument, Justice Kavanaugh said, "They say the Constitution doesn't give us the authority. We should leave it to the states, and we should be scrupulously neutral." Chief Justice John Roberts, a fellow conservative, focused on the argument of the fetal viability. Also, in the news this morning, another sad item, Jacqueline Avant, wife of the godfather of Black music, was shot and killed at the couple's home in Beverly Hills early Wednesday morning. The police said they responded to a call regarding a shooting at the home of Jacqueline and Clarence Avant at about 2:23 a.m. Police said the victim was taken to a nearby hospital by paramedics, but did not survive. A spokesperson for Netflix confirmed that Jacqueline Avant was shot and killed. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos is Jacqueline Avant's son-in-law. Potential suspects were not at the scene when officers arrived. A homicide investigation has been opened into the incident, and Beverly Hills police said in a press release that Jacqueline Avant was indeed the victim at 2:23 a.m. West Coast time. Our thoughts, of course, go out to the family of the Black Godfather, Clarence Avant, his daughter, Nicole, and of course, all of their loved ones. Of course, Clarence Avant was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, with Lionel Richie giving a speech honoring him during the ceremony. Also this morning, the body of missing 21-year-old Danae Rawls was found. We featured Danae earlier this week on Let It Be Known, hoping for a much better outcome. Her boyfriend has been charged with her murder. Detectives charged 21-year-old Nicholas Davis for the murder of 21-year-old Danae Rawls. On November 22nd, police claimed that Danae Rawls willingly left her home on Robert Court. However, her family grew concerned for her safety when she did not return. The family reported her missing on November 24th. The Black and Missing Foundation released a statement to the Black press saying, "We were hoping for a different outcome. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family." This morning, we have a couple of special guests. Black farmers. Black farmers lost 90% of their farmland between 1910 and 1997, largely due to decades of loan denials at the USDA's. And since 1965, multiple federal agencies, most notably the USDA itself, have issued reports citing, as the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights put it in that year, unmistakable evidence that racial discrimination within the agriculture department has served to accelerate the displacement and impoverishment of the Black farmer. This morning, we talked to James Wright of the Washington Informer, and of course, John Wesley Boyd, the president and founder of the National Black Farmers Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Mr. Boyd, first and foremost, your response, you've been on the front lines for so long when it comes to Black farmers and the plight of Black farmers. This latest report has to be alarming.
It is, and it's really stating exactly what I've been saying for the past 3 decades. The amount of land that we lost, due to the discrimination at the United States Department of Agriculture, and the blatant discrimination that Black farmers faced for so very long that, went uncorrected in this country. And, the oldest occupation in history for Black people is farming, and it stems from slavery to sharecropping to the horrific laws of Jim Crow. All of these things, right up to the unfair lending practices at the United States Department of Agriculture, the top 10 banks, corporate America, all of these things are put together. Today, as I sit here, we're facing extinction. And what's troubling is when the brown bear and the black bear and the bald eagle all faced extinction, Congress put extreme laws in place until their numbers came back up. Why can't they do the same thing for the oldest occupation in history for Black people, which is farming?
Yeah, absolutely. James, I know you've done some research, if not reporting on this issue. Your thoughts and any questions for Mr. Boyd?
Well, yes, farming is very important. And it's a very important of the larger scheme in terms of the agriculture industry. I do have a question, Mr. Boyd, in terms of the 2-part question. First of all, what did the Black farmer get from the previous administration? And what is the present secretary, who is a former secretary also, in terms of doing to help the Black farmers?
Right. Well, we didn't get much at all from the Trump administration. They did put a lot of resources out there, primarily to help large-scale white farmers in this country. And to Trump's credit, when he put the monies out there, they were in white farmers' mailbox within days. And when we had the debt relief measure that passed recently under the Biden administration and the COVID relief package, it took too long to get the debt relief out to Black farmers and farmers of color, which brings me to this administration. I don't think that Secretary Vilsack was the right pick for this time in history to fix USDA, that he had served a couple of terms with the Obama administration, and things were too slow back then when he was the agriculture secretary. And I really was supporting Marsha Fudge to come to USDA. And we had some great meetings and conversations, and we had a plan to address the issue, the plight of the black farmer at USDA, if she was able to become agriculture secretary. So Secretary Vilsack is it's not that I dislike him as a person. That's not it. I simply believe that he's the wrong person and the team there at USDA to fix the systemic racism and discrimination that still exist at the United States Department of Agriculture. Today, as I sit here, the National Black Farmers Association has been fighting 12 lawsuits filed by white farmers, blocking the $4 billion in payments, the debt relief for direct loans and guaranteed loans at USDA, a measure that I personally worked on for 30 years. It finally passed Congress, and now we're fighting these 12 complaints in federal courts, which were filed in conservative judgeships and courts strategically by white farmers. 2 cases were filed with a temporary injunction, one in Florida and the other in Texas, that are blocking the monies to black farmers and farmers of color. We're getting it all the way around, and we need the support of Black America to start talking about this. And we recently recorded a song with KJ Marley, the grandson of Bob Marley, called The Land. And we hope that people will go down and download it. It's on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all that. Listen to the words of the song and spread it. We're trying to catch the attention of young people through this rap song, and hopefully the plight of the black farmer and what's happened to black farmers in this country will catch on in the black community.
Yeah, just to digress just a bit, as I see several of our publishers watching this morning, including our board members, the chair, Karen Carter-Richards, and Jackie Hampton, and Bobby Henry, and Cheryl Smith. A big announcement is coming out of the White House today as it pertains to the black press and black-owned businesses. I'll give you a little snippet at the end of this program, but stay tuned. But I want to get back to this topic here. In 1920, the number of black farmers peaked at nearly 1 million, constituting 14% of all farmers. But between 1910 and 1997, they lost 90% of their property. In contrast, Mr. Boyd, white farmers lost only 2% in that same period. So it goes to your point here about systemic racism and the taking of property. Has there been any discussion with the current administration, despite who's the agricultural secretary? Has there been any substantial conversations at all with this administration?
Well, I've had the same way I'm having a conversation with you is the same conversation I've had with President Biden about what's happening to black farmers and the land laws. And, you know, we had black farmers had 20 million acres of land during that time period. And we're down to 4.5 million acres of land. Everything good comes from the land, you know, the food we eat, the cotton and clothes, and the clean drinking water, and timber for houses. And we got to find a way in the country to get our foothold again on land ownership. It's the first step to financial stability, to pass down generational wealth. And my grandfather, Thomas Boyd, said, if you truly want to be free, you have to own some of God's land that they don't make any more of. So for the people that are watching this, forget about the new Mercedes-Benz and all of those things, and buy yourself 5 acres in the country. We probably won't get all our land back, but we can start buying some land. We have enough wealthy blacks in this country to start buying some land. Don't turn away from agriculture, and don't turn away from the ability to feed yourselves because of the historical pattern that we face in this country. Land is it. It's all about the land, people.
Yeah, and that's an amazing number you threw out. So black farmers have lost some 6 16 million acres. 16 million. Let that sink in. And that is conservatively estimated to be worth between 250 billion and 350 billion dollars today. Again, James, it goes to we can talk about reparations, right? Because it goes to that, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, and that does encompass reparations. And Stacey Brown, Mr. Boyd, how can you have reparations just strictly as a cash payment or an education tax credit when it doesn't have land? That's the issue that they're facing in South Africa right now in terms of land redistribution. Yes. I wanted to bring up an interesting point to talk about the support that you're getting in Congress, Mr. Boyd. But people should remember that when Shirley Chisholm was elected to Congress in 1968, the Democratic caucus wanted to put her on the Agriculture Committee, and she screamed and said, no, there are more people than trees. If she had done a little bit of research, she might have had really an impact on that committee. But talk about the support the Black farmers have been getting in Congress.
Well, we have a new chairman there, David Scott, in the Agriculture Committee. And to his credit, the first hearing he had under his chairmanship was a Black farmer hearing, something that I tried over 3 decades to get. And we had never, the Black farmers in the issue had never had a full committee hearing until David Scott became chairman. His phone lines have been open to me personally, and we have a long history of friendship. So I think we can make some progress with Chairman Scott, but there's a short window of opportunity to do that, and things move slow in Congress, as all of you guys know who've been pushing the ink to the paper here and newspapers across the country. And I would like to give a point to the NNPA, who's been following me and the Black farmers for so many years. And sometimes we got to stop and take a moment just to say thank you. So I'd like to thank you for getting the word out about what's happening to Black farmers and the Black community, the right and the truth that you guys have been putting about the issue. And I would like to touch back again to the land, because as we lost all of the land, and white farmers claimed that, Black farmers got 2 settlements and that fixes everything. Look at the variations in the numbers. We got $1 billion in the first settlement. It was too late. Many Black farmers had already died. 83,000 Black farmers came after the filing deadline. We got $1.25 billion under the Obama administration. But look what it takes just to replace the land, people. $300 billion. And we're only scratching the surface. And, it's time for white America to have a come home to Jesus, a conversation with people like us, to let them know what we endured in this country. First they stole all the land from the Indians. Let's tell the history right. They stole all the land from the Indians and put them on land where it wouldn't grow anything. And then after we came and worked the land and cleaned up the South, and the currency didn't spend after the Civil War, we were able to purchase this land. Now they want all that land back again from Black people in this country.
Yeah, you talk about property, land, and when we hear about generational wealth, that's one of the first things that come up, property ownership. And so here we see that we've been stripped of so much land, so much property. This is really a serious issue, and you're thanking the Black press, but we certainly thank you for staying at the helm of driving this message. Bobby Henry, go ahead. Before I bring up what Bobby says, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead, Mr. Boyd.
Oh, okay. I wanted to also recognize Senator Cory Booker and Ralph Warnock, who were the 2 lead sponsors of the debt relief measure. So we have Black people, for the first time in history, both of those gentlemen are on the Senate Ag Committee, which put us in place to get into debt relief that I tried for so many years. And for people who are watching this and don't know what debt relief is, it was simply a direct loan or a guaranteed loan with USDA. White farmers were getting debt relief for decades with ease, which means the government will wipe away their debt and give them the opportunity to get more farm operating loans, more equipment loans. and blacks were giving a 30-day loan denial notice, just like me, where I had to come up and pay all of my money within 30 days, or they would sell my farm. And one of them they did sell. So I'm part of that number that you read. Although I was able to hold on and because of my strong roots and family and support, I was able to hold on. But many black farmers were not. So white farmers were getting debt relief with ease, loan reamortization, debt write-down, loan forgiveness from my very own government, and black farmers were getting none. We were getting a foreclosure notice within 30 days. So that's the difference. And, white farmer says, oh, well, boy, it's reverse discrimination. It's not reverse discrimination. We're simply trying to repair some of the damage that, what this government done and corporate America done to blacks in this country.
Yeah, Bobby Henry down at the West Side Gazette in Fort Lauderdale, Florida asks, with the advancement of technology, how has this affected black farmers, and has any technological companies joined the black farmers in their support for what they need to survive?
It's slow. It's slow from corporate America. And I hate to keep going back on this debt relief thing, but when we finally got debt relief, it was the top 10 banks who wrote the president and leaders of Congress saying that we shouldn't get it. It would be harmful to their banks. So instead of saying, through the guaranteed piece loan of it, instead of saying, hey, forgive the debt and we're going to contribute or guaranteed XYZ billion more to make sure that black farmers survive, the banking system said not to do it. That's the mentality towards black-owned farmland in this country. And for people that are watching this, there are two things that divide anybody quickly: money and land. And that's what we're talking about with the black farmers. So it's all about the land. It's all about the money. Corporate America, I challenge the top 10 corporate companies in this country to come to the table, especially John Deere, who openly discriminates against black farmers through its loans and through its service centers. So simply, I own 1,500 acres of land in Mecklenburg County, Virginia. And they will tell me, well, boy, we got to service these 3 farmers because we got to keep them going. Yeah. Well, I need to be kept going too during harvest time and planting. And another thing that people don't understand, when these tractors break down, the only company that can fix them, to fix their brand, is John Deere. We can't fix them. The tractor cuts off, and you have to have the particular software by John Deere to stick underneath the steering wheel in order to get that tractor fixed. So when they say I can't come out for 2 weeks during harvest, that's make or break for a farmer like me.
Wow. That's incredible. So they have a monopoly going there. Yes, James, you raised a question before we went live. You talked about young people. I see Bobby Henry asking about young people. James, what is your thoughts? A question, I should say, to Mr. Boyd on young people's involvement, young black people in particular.
Well, I'm a graduate of Prairie View A&M University in Texas, and agriculture is a very important part of the university's offerings. Interestingly enough, not as many students as they should partake in agriculture, agribusiness, etc., because I guess we're such an urbanized people, I guess, Mr. Boyd. Right. Could you talk about how important it is for young people of color? And I think Bobby Henry alluded to this in his questions. Young people of color to get involved in careers in farming and in agriculture?
Yes, it's very important. For the survival of the black farmer in this country, if we have to get more young blacks, young men and women involved in farming and agribusiness. We need them at the top 10 ag companies in this country. And if we want to change USDA, we need more black persons working behind the desks and making sure that the government is not dogging black farmers. And we need to team young people up with older black farmers. The average age of a black farmer is 61 years of age. We need to team young people up so they can learn the skill set of farming, the 3 commodity farming I'm talking about in this country: corn, wheat, and soybeans. We want to pass along our history the way that I was taught by my daddy, John Boyd Sr. and Thomas Boyd, taught me how to farm. So this myth about black farmers who went out of business because they were bad farmers is BS, people. We're
Yeah.
the greatest farmers in this country, and that's why we've been able to survive with no access to credit in this country, because we're very, very good farmers. And lastly, we do have a scholarship program, and I'd like people to visit our websites, nationalblackfarmers.org and blackfarmers with a S.org. It's a 4-year ride, paid expenses and everything. We need young blacks applying for the scholarship. We have 25 of those scholarships available, and we didn't find enough of qualified young black students last year to apply. So that's painful for me to admit on screen here with you. So we need young people to apply for that scholarship.
Well, as we wind down, I want to make sure to mention some comments and questions that been posed by those watching. Cheryl Smith mentions on the OWN series, Queen Sugar, they focus on the plight of the black farmer. Do you find them to adequately portray some of the issues?
Well, some of the issues that you see there were revised, or they had some in-depth interviews with people like myself. So the piece about the lawsuit and stuff about that, the farm foreclosure piece, is all real talk. So some of those things are true, but they put in the storyline that's about that particular family. But I think it helps because it introduces some people that never heard anything about the plight of the black farmer. So any way we can get it, we would like to do that. And again, that's why I was teaming up with Bob Marley's grandson to try to reach the younger generation through the song "The Land." And I challenge everybody to go out, just listen to the words of the song. And the Marleys are very, very talented young artists. So I hope that the song—
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I should say, with all due respect, Cheryl Smith is the publisher of the Texas Metro News and iMessenger Media. She's also a region president for NMPA. One Facebook user, don't see the name, but it says Facebook user, food sourcing is the #1 game in town for so many reasons. They don't want the black community to truly become agriculturally independent. And Nathaniel Hicks Jr. says, what are the prominent crops being farmers now?
Well, we grow everything, and that's also a myth. So we have new crops coming along, such as hemp, that people need to get involved in and learn. Marijuana has become legalized in many states. This is something that just may spark some interest to young people. Farming is changing. I grow the 3 commodities that I spoke about: corn, wheat, soybeans, and 100 head of beef cattle along the historic Roanoke River here in Mecklenburg County, Virginia. I would like to pass that rich history on to the next generation of farmers. I want us to look at urban farming and all of those things, but I also want us to compete in the top 10 producers in this country and farming the way that I'm out here trying to compete. Everybody's not going to do it this way, but we want more young people to take a look at farming and agribusiness, urban farming. All those things are part of farming and agriculture.
Yeah, and Claudette Perry, the NMPA's executive administrator, says land is the foundational basis for all wealth all over the world. And finally, I'll go back to, and Claudette Perry again, my grandma was a proponent of owning land. Always said, if you own land, you'll never be homeless or hungry. As a young child, our land was ultimately taken as well. And Bobby Henry, finally, young people need to know that farming as it was in the past is not the same today. Maybe if we stress that point and the fact that ownership is possible, they will come aboard. And I think, Mr. Boyd, that's what you've been trying to do. This is a conversation that we need to continue, and we will. We hate to cut it short. There's 2 notes. Another piece of news is that obviously, Stacey Abrams has announced she's running again for governor of Georgia. That should be a very, very interesting race, one to watch for our publishers and other small Black business owners and Latino business owners. President Biden and Kamala, this is just in from the White House. They have announced a set of reforms to the federal procurement process to help meet an ambitious target of increasing the share of federal contracts to small, disadvantaged businesses and advance the president's management agenda and increase opportunity for all underserved businesses. The actions announced this morning include, for the first time, asking agencies to increase their goals so that government-wide spending results in an 11% of contracting dollars being awarded to small disadvantaged businesses, up from the current statutory goal of 5%. The president, in a statement, is saying this morning that this is the first step toward meeting his goal of ensuring that 15% of federal contracts go to these entities by 2025. He expects to start this immediately in fiscal year 2021. Our publishers, you can go to the Newswire, NMPA's Newswire. There's an entire fact sheet there that for you, and it can be published beginning. The White House says you can publish it beginning at 8 a.m. It's already there on the NMPA's Newswire. The NMPA's Midwinter Training Conference kicks off in January on the 19th, and we'll be at the beautiful Diplomat Beach Resort in Hollywood, Florida, from January 19th to January 22nd. The theme is the publishing industry, advancing the Black press of America, reaffirming, engaging, and empowering. Visit www.nmpa-events.com to register and reserve your hotel rooms to get the NMPA's discounted rate, and it is a beautiful discount, folks. Hotel rooms must be reserved by December the 12th. That's the NMPA's Midwinter Training Conference. All are welcome. It's going to be a great time in sunny Hollywood, Florida, and hosted by Bobby Henry. And our Black fact of the day is about Black-owned newspapers. In the first 2 decades of the 20th century, the United States was transformed by technological innovation, powerful social movements, and political upheaval abroad and at home. African Americans often found themselves at the forefront of change in the political and economic landscape as the nation shifted to industrialization. Correspondingly, the Black population, once concentrated in the South, moved northward and westward. By 1910, over 275 Black newspapers were being published in cities throughout the United States, reaching a cumulative circulation of 500,000 readers. One of the most influential of these papers was the California Eagle, founded in 1879 by John James Nemore. The Eagle served as a catalyst in the growth of African American communities in Los Angeles. It reached out to African Americans in the rest of the nation, calling for them to seize opportunities available in the growing cities of the West, especially Los Angeles. When Nemore died in 1912, he turned control of the newspaper over to Charlotta Spears Bass. Mrs. Bass, as she was known, had joined the Eagle a few years earlier, selling subscriptions and working her way up the ranks. She was a deeply committed publisher and editor, as well as a dynamic community activist and leader. Through the newspaper and other public forums, Mrs. Bass spoke out on issues facing Los Angeles' Black communities, from police brutality to discrimination in housing. She even took on the film industry, leading a boycott that spread nationwide against D.W. Griffin's Birth of a Nation, an epic that celebrated the founding of the Ku Klux Klan. The Black press's importance in the early 20th century still resonates today, as the Black press of America remains as vital as ever. We thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Bass. Thank you, James. We appreciate you as always. And everybody stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow.